Right, so I want to just go ahead and start and welcome all of you here this morning to Careers in Communication. This is the annual fall event that the Department of Communications has done for a number of years, spearheaded by Dr. Joel Litvin, right? Dr. Litvin, a number of you know, works really hard to be placing and facilitating important internships in the department. It's one of the hats that Dr. Litvin wears, and I think one of the themes that has consistently come up over the years that we've been doing the roundtable is the opportunity of internships, the importance of internships, and the way in which internships can be a bridge from what you're doing here at BSU to life after BSU. And so I'm guessing that will be something that we'll be talking about again this semester. So our format today is going to go something like this. Really briefly, we're going to have the chair of our department, Dr. Arthur Lizzie, give us a brief introduction. Then I'm going to ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves. I have several questions I will ask them, and we'll have them respond, kind of a fairly informal conversation. But then we want to make sure that we have a good chunk of time for you all to be able to ask questions as well. We have note cards that are here, and we encourage you to formulate questions that you would like to ask our panelists. We'll also have a little bit of time at the very end to be able to do some one-on-one networking. So I guess to begin, let's just get the golf clap out of the way, and please invite welcome our 6 returning alumni here to Bridgewater State University. So, to lead things off, I would invite our chair of the department, Dr. Lizzie, to come and just offer a brief word of welcome.
Yeah, welcome to the panelists, to everybody here, and really a special thanks to the one person who hasn't been thanked here is Dr. Ingolstad, who worked with Dr. Litvin to put this together. I just want to let you know, I think this is a great opportunity for you to come to this, and this is part of, it's been part of what we've been doing for a few years, but it's also part of where we're going the next few years with more of an emphasis on advising, internships, real-world experience, and sort of pulling the in-class experience a little bit closer toward that job experience afterwards. So I think that's something that the department's focusing on, and this is an example of what we're trying to do. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Okay, so what I'd like to do now is just ask all of the panelists to introduce themselves in a couple of minutes. Among other things, this will allow me to tweak the audio just to make sure that everyone in the back can hear, but I'll be putzing in the background while you all introduce yourselves. So we can go down the line, or why don't we do that? Okay. Karen, do you want to lead off?
Hi everyone, my name's Karen White. I graduated from Bridgewater State in 2010, and shortly after that I graduated with a communications degree. I was actually concentrating on media and broadcasting, but I somehow stumbled into a blog writing job at a law firm, maybe a couple weeks after graduation, and from there I kind of was in the right place at the right time, and the lawyer running the law firm decided to start a brand new legal marketing firm. And he asked me to put an ad on Craigslist for someone to run all of the marketing and sales for him. And I went to him and said, instead of putting it out on Craigslist, why don't you give me a shot? And so he did, and it worked out. And I headed all of the marketing and sales for him for about 1.5 to 2 years. I was traveling around the United States, running trade shows, just promoting the company. And I had interviewed for a job at IBM around the same time I got that job and didn't get the job. And then about 2 years into my career at the legal marketing firm, I get a call from IBM saying they're interested again in me coming in to interview. So I ended up going in, interviewing, and I got a position there doing inside sales. I started in May. So since then I've been doing inside sales. My territory is New York City, so it's great being able to travel there every once in a while to do events and things like that. I've been doing the panel for a few years, and I love it. I love coming here and seeing where I was a few years ago, looking at you guys, and hopefully you're all looking at me, seeing where you guys can possibly be in a few years. So thanks a lot for having me.
My name is Julie Clarke. I'm 23 years old. I graduated Bridgewater in January of 2012, and I'm currently the Events and Communications Manager at the Italian Home for Children in Jamaica Plain. The Italian Home is a residential and daytime facility treating severely abused and neglected at-risk children. And I graduated Bridgewater with a communications major and a double minor in PR and business management. And during my time at Bridgewater, I completed 4 different internships. And the reason why I completed so many was just because communication field is so broad. I really didn't know what avenue I wanted to take within it. So I figured, why not try them all out and see what one's the best fit for me. So I was very lucky. One of my internships my senior year turned into a position that I am now. They held the position for me from September to January when I graduated. And I'm currently responsible for $1.4 million each year in event fundraising. And I also deal with the PR, the marketing, and the social media. So it's really a perfect fit for me. It's all 4 internships combined into one. So if I could just have one word of advice, it would just be put yourself out there and give 100% at everything you do.
Hello, my name is Shaniece Singleton. I graduated from Bridgewater in August of 2011. I briefly worked at CBS Studios doing traffic coordinating for them, and what that was putting together timesheets and everything for things like commercials that go on during, all the shows. So I was responsible for, I believe, M through Z. So any companies that were through M through Z, I was responsible for making sure that their commercials were getting inputted into the system, making sure that their time formats were correct, and things of that nature. And I got that through networking, and you guys will realize that networking is definitely key in some areas. You need to know the people, you need to know who you need to talk to, and you need to put yourself out there. And currently I'm actually back here at Bridgewater getting my master's in education.
My name is Pat Kerrigan. I was graduated in 2007, May of 2007 from Bridgewater. I graduated with my communication studies degree, and I studied business management as well. And over that time, throughout my career or time at school, I worked at Best Buy, and I came up from a part-time position at Best Buy. I'm currently the general manager at Best Buy in Dedham, Massachusetts. I've been with Best Buy for 9 years. I've been in my current location for almost 2 years, and I've been a general manager for almost 3 now. The other kind of portion of my career was I did do internships as well. I did an internship with the help of Dr. Liffin with Fox 25 with sports production. And after my internship there, I was held on as part-time and was a part-time producer for them for the sports department for between 2006 and 2010, so about 3.5 years. And I am real excited to be here. And any questions you guys have, be happy to answer them.
All right. Hi, I'm Liz Polom. I just graduated in May of this year with a communication degree and a minor in PR. While I was at Bridgewater, I interned at Maddie in the Morning in Boston, and I also had an internship with a nonprofit organization. So when I graduated, I just kind of applied to every single job I could possibly find and got hired at Country 102.5 and Magic 106.7 in Boston. So I'm now on their street team, and I go around and do all the face-to-face promotional work for them and do all their events and shows and everything like that. And definitely get an internship in the field that you want and make it count. So that's my advice to all of you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kathleen Lynch, and I'm the Director of Member Services for the Metro South Chamber of Commerce. What's a Chamber of Commerce? It's a non-profit, member-based business organization, and we help businesses in the Metro South region with things such as networking, business assistance, economic development, training, you name it. We provide a lot of resources to the local business community, covering Bridgewater, Brockton, and the 16 surrounding communities. I graduated from Bridgewater State University in 2009 with a communication studies degree. I took up an internship at the Metro South Chamber of Commerce right out of school, right in May after I graduated. and worked as an intern for a short time, and then was hired part-time in sales for the chamber. Moving forward, I was hired as the Connecting Activities Coordinator at the chamber, placing high school interns in internships with the local business community. And most recently was hired as Director of Member Services for the chamber. So I started my professional career at the chamber, and I'm still there, trying to work my way up. And I'm also happy to answer any questions that you may have this morning. Thank you.
Great. So I guess the first question that I have that I would kind of put out there, and then anyone who wants to jump in, please do. We don't necessarily have to go down the line again. But is to come back to the question of internships, but then also kind of first jobs and how those kind of play in with career trajectories, and kind of how sometimes those career trajectories can go in interesting ways that you don't necessarily envision, right, when you're sitting here as a senior at the university. Could you talk a little bit about your internship experience, first jobs experiences, and kind of how that plays into where you are now and where you want to be yourselves? Sure. How's that for a broad?
Well, I don't mind starting because I feel like I kind of had an awfully curvy path to where I am right now. And I don't see that as a negative thing at all. I think that's great. It lets me dabble in different things, and it has given me a lot of experience. But I started my career, or my internships, at Maddie in the Morning also, which I didn't realize that. That was my first internship, and I was kind of just helping him run the show, doing some blogs, things like that. And I had always been a fan of writing, although what I really wanted to do is, be kind of on the radio or be in front of the camera, that sort of thing. So from there, through networking, I got to Channel 5 after that next semester internship. And, I thought that I was going to be there. It was my senior year. That's where I thought I wanted to be. I saw the anchors, thought, hey, this is it for me. But, it didn't happen. I didn't get offered any position. They were downsizing. So after graduation, I kind of was in like a mental rut, I guess, thinking, hey, I had my chance and now what's going to happen? I had applied at different stations, didn't get a job, and that's when I stumbled upon the blog writing job at the law firm. And, I find it funny to think how I really can relate what I do now to what, my junior and senior year, say, goals are. No, I'm not in front of a camera or anything, but through my experience, I've realized that it's really not the being in front of a camera that I'm passionate about. It's just the whole interaction with people. And of course, that just falls under communications in general. And, through that, I got into sales a little bit at the law firm, and I met people from all around the United States who, were saying, hey, come here and work for me and do this. And and I had the opportunity to move away. I decided to knock that down when I got the IBM position. But, just through experience and through being out in the working field, you realize that you're going to find, your path's going to change. You're going to realize you love things that you never knew you did. And one thing that I can say is don't go out there looking, don't get discouraged. If right now you're saying, all right, I want to get a job, writing newspaper articles for the Globe. Don't aim for just that. You just get yourself out there and talk to as many people. Everyone's connected. Networking, as everyone here has said, is the number one thing that you can do. And, people say, oh, it's all about who you know, and that is definitely true to an extent. You need to get yourself out there, and you need to meet people, and don't hold yourself back, and, try new things. Because that's exactly what I did, and now I absolutely love where I'm at. And you know what, 3 years ago, if you had ever asked me if I would take a sales position, I would have said absolutely not. But, I'm completely happy with what I chose, so.
I'll piggyback on that, if that's okay. So I'm still not doing what I want to do, but you find that you take what you can get, as long as it's right for you. I started as an intern. That was 3 years ago, the little anecdote I just told you, 3 years ago. but I have been able to, I'm trying to chisel out a position that's right for me, and that's why I'm still there. I feel as though my time here at Bridgewater State University showed the importance. I focused on public relations during my time here, and I noticed a gap at the chamber. You wouldn't think that, but I was able to identify a gap in terms of the promotions of our events and in terms of the promotions of telling our story and public relations overall. So I've been able to slowly but surely convince our CEO that he needs me to manage the social media feed, because we need to be there, because we need to be cutting edge, and we need to be, keeping up, because we're the chamber. We're supposed to be the front runners of technology. And I've been able to, chisel out that, or shine the light on the fact that we really need to keep up in terms of public relations. And I still feel that I will convince him that there needs to be a director of public relations at the chamber. I didn't set out to be in sales, just as you had said, but I am there, and I'm able to bring in those skill sets, my focus, my passions to that position. You just bring it into what you're doing, and in terms of internship, just to kind of get back to the focus of the question, when you take on your internship, don't sit there and say, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? You all are bright and you're here. Try to take notice of what you think you could add and how you could help if you're just sitting at a desk and you're finding there's nothing to do. Try to, you're all bright. Find out what you can do. Figure it out for yourself and bring that to the CEO or the boss and say, I noticed you're not doing this. Do you think it would be helpful if I was to do this for you? And they might say, no, answer the phone. But they might say, oh yes, we hadn't thought of that. That's great. So.
Going off of that, does anyone listen to Toucher and Rich in the morning, like on 985? So they have one of their producers is Mike Lockhart, who does the fantasy football show that they do on Sundays. He's been with Toucher and Rich now for almost 3 years, I believe. Mike actually interned for me when I was a producer at Fox 25. Mike, a lot of people don't know his story. He's got a really good story. He was in his late 20s, married with a child, and he was a plumber. And he hated plumbing, just didn't want to do it. He spoke to his wife. He decided he was going to go to the Connecticut School of Broadcasting and do some studies around communication. And he got a ton of internships. He interned for WAAF. He interned for WBCN. He interned for Fox. And he was very, very successful with it. And eventually he got an internship for WBCN with Toucher and Rich. And when they transferred to 98.5 the Sports Hub, they brought him with them as a sports producer. And he's been with them for quite a while now. He's doing his dream job, which he found out was not plumbing. So, and sort of how it ties in for our stories is, I think it's also important for the interns is that you'll understand real quick if it's something you want to do for the rest of your life. You'll also understand real quick if it's something you don't ever want to do. And I think that happened sort of for me when I was interning at Fox, where it was a really cool job. It had its perks. You met a lot of good people. David Ortiz swore at me a bunch of times because I was in his locker room. It was really awkward. But in the end, it had its perks, but at the same time, I realized my other career, which was with Best Buy, I loved it. I was around people, I was managing people, and it was something that I got really excited around. So that's sort of for me where I was at a crossroad, and a job that originally started as beer and gas money turned into a career. My priorities are still beer and gas, but there's other things that are involved in that. So I would recommend if you do the internship, I'd recommend to do it, do a couple of them, and if it's something you really like as an intern, you'll probably like it as a job. And if it's something that you just don't like and you don't get excited about, complete it, finish it out, and then try to look for something else, because there's nothing worse than doing a job for 4 years and having to look for an entire new career. So if you don't like plumbing, don't get into plumbing.
And as far as first jobs go, I mean, they're not all going to sound glamorous. Like when they're like, "Oh, do you know what traffic is at CBS?" And I was like, "I have no idea what you guys are talking about." She's like, "Well, basically, it's commercial input." And I was like, "Okay." I was sitting at a desk all day, typing things into a computer. But I got to meet the anchors. I got to meet, the Phantom Gourmet guy. I got to see those account executives. And one day, that could be my job. They're out there, schmoozing clients and going out, to New York all the time. And you really just have to take what you have and try to make the best out of it. And, while you're in that position, talk to those upper end people, just do what you can, be in their office as much as you can, and really just get that information, and even though I'm not there now, if I ever went back, they know me because I was there, I made an impression on them. That's what you need to do, is even if you're not there for a amount of time, those skills are going to be important for something that you do. So just stick it out when you can and take those skills and run with them where you can.
So I want to follow up on something Kathleen said about networking and social media, and I wonder if any of you would like to talk a little bit about how you all are thinking strategically about social media yourself or within your organization, and as folks who are on that side of the desk, right? How do you all think about folks on this side of the desk when you're thinking about folks applying for internships or first jobs vis-a-vis social media?
I will say for myself, I'm responsible for the social media for my organization. When I came in, it was all older people, I guess you could say, in the company. They weren't brought up and raised with social media. So like most of you are probably on your phone on Facebook right now, I was the same way in the classroom. So I really took my skills, it is a skill nowadays, and brought that into the organization. So they have a lot more traffic through the social media. But as far as yourself going out for an internship, you need to be careful what you post on social media. I know for myself, when I'm looking for interns at my organization, I get their name and their resume. The first thing I do is go to their Facebook page, see what I see for pictures, see what I see for information, what other people are posting on their Facebook wall, because it does show in the workforce. So just be careful out there.
And kind of looking at it on the other end of things as well. Because I know with my job, often it's difficult to break through to brand new companies that I'm trying to break through to. So I found that using LinkedIn and using Facebook actually really works. If you show interest in them, they're more likely to show interest in you. So if you're out there, if you're on Facebook or LinkedIn or even Twitter, this sounds really simple, but a great recommendation for you is to align yourselves with the industries and the companies that you're interested in. If you're looking to get an internship at KISS 108, go and follow them on Twitter. Be a part of their groups, follow their groups. If you looked at my LinkedIn profile, I'm following companies, I don't even know what they are, but just the fact that they're going to see me, they're going to see that I'm interested in them. They're more apt to talking to me than someone who they've never seen. Just get yourself out there and use social media. Use it for fun, of course, and posting pictures, we all do it, but also it can be used to your benefit. I can't remember the exact statistics on this, but they said there is some crazy percentage of online, I forget how they phrased it, but it was the amount of money people spend on physical, actual products and on products that don't exist. And that percentage, it's like 80 to 20. As in 80% people spend more money and more time on, things that don't actually exist. And when they say that, they're talking about all of the social media, everything you're doing online, things like that, opposed to, physical products. So that is the way of the world now. So you definitely want to use it to your benefit, and there are so many ways to do that. So.
And definitely pay attention to everything that they post and actually get informed and know about the company that you want to apply to. Because in your interview, one of their first questions is going to be, okay, why do you want to work for us? And if you have no idea, if you have no clue about the company, then they're not going to hire you because you're not going to be able to talk to them about it. So.
Just a few things. I have an application called Hootsuite. You probably know what that is. So you're able to manage all the social media platforms at once. Otherwise, it's a nightmare to try to manage a Twitter, a LinkedIn, Facebook page, all these other platforms for your business. It's just, there comes a time when you really have to think about what is actually valuable. Well, the question came up at the chamber, is it valuable to have a Chamber of Commerce Facebook page? And after I sold my first chamber membership, because of a person that posted on our page, he saw that it was. But a couple of things. The chamber sends its employees away to what is called Institute for Organizational Management, and it's led by the United States Chamber. I'm in my second year, and there was a lot of, this came up a lot. best practices from a human resources perspective. And although they're trying to tell businesses, do not look at a Facebook page, it's not best practices in terms of human resources, it's going to happen. The company might not admit that they're going to do that, that they're doing that, but they will. So if your Facebook profile picture and you're in a bikini or you have beer in your hand, just think again and start now. If you're getting close to graduation, you know you can't delete all those pictures at once. One a day, folks. Start deleting one a day because it's going to take a long time. Pictures should become private, profile become private, and you really need to start thinking about that now. Because as you know, and tagging, you might want to disable the tagging that other people can do of your photos. Because although it's, yeah, you might want to disable that now because it takes a long time to delete all of those photos, and you can't do it all with one click of a button. Facebook makes it that way. That's my advice.
And just one more follow-up on this. Like in my media literacy classes, we've talked about social media, not only kind of like some dangers, but also kind of a range of opportunities. One of the things we've talked about in senior STEM is the fact that the payoff of different things like social media or posting your resume online, right? The efficacy of that gets undercut by the fact that it's so easy to do. Everybody is doing it, and so I guess one of the things that I'd be curious to have you talk about is are specific practices that you see organizations or maybe individuals doing in terms of social media to differentiate yourselves from like all the other folks who have the Facebook and LinkedIn. And do you see what I'm asking? Right? How do you rise up above the noise when everybody's out there?
Think outside the box. Get creative. Don't just. And something interesting that was advice that was given to me. Don't just tell your story. We're the chamber. We do this. We provide this. Think about how you can help someone else. You know, how you can be helpful. Think from that voice of how you can be helpful. And then when you ask that question, one specific example that comes to mind is there's a local business in Brockton. They're a spa. They're called Tranquil Escapes. And they are chamber members. And us as the chamber will repost postings from the chamber community, the business community. And one thing they do really well is they do a lot of questions where they'll post a prize for responses. You know, if you like this, your name gets entered into a drawing to receive a $100 gift card. Share this post, and your name gets entered 3 times to win this $100 gift card. Just get creative. Think outside the box. Think about in terms of how you can help people, you know, and post things that are interesting and have good content. That's what I would say. Does that answer the question?
Sure. And I mean, you're also underscoring this kind of important kind of paradigm shift of the job searcher, right? From like, I want a good job to what do I have to offer, you know, that an employer, you know, will value, right? And like, you know, how can I plug into that project that they're doing there versus, you know, so, you know, how do I figure out how to move out of the basement? Because I've been there.
And be an initiator too. I mean, you can use social networking and social media for doing that. I mean, it's awesome, like I said, to follow companies, get involved with companies, but take an idea that they might have posted and give your own twist to it and start your own group. If they're liking what they see in a group that you're involved in, they might go and they might say, hey, who thought of this? So, you know, be the one on top of everyone else, like be an administrator. Just do something that separates your name, something that simply puts your name on the page before everyone else. You'll be surprised at how far that'll take you over the 50 people that are listed, you know, in that after that next click of your mouse.
And I think participating in, you know, those pages that you see is really important. Like I have a Twitter account specifically for networking purposes, and I'm following as many people as I can in higher education. And every Thursday they have this thing called Essay Chat, which is Student Affairs Chat, and they post questions and you can answer. And I'm only in my program a year, but if I see something interesting and I want to respond to it, I respond. And, you know, these are professionals around the world and around the country who are seeing these responses. And it's like, oh, like I've been talking to this girl who is a graduate student in Oklahoma. I'm talking to deans of colleges over across the country. So I'm really putting myself out there and doing that networking now. So when I graduate in hopefully a year and a half or so, they'll remember me from those essay chats. I'm like, oh, she had good ideas. She had, you know, things to say about the field. And that's what's going to be important, what you have to say about the field and how you can make it better and how you can make a difference in the field.
So I'm gonna change things up just a little bit and think broadly about our education, or kind of like what we're up to right here at the university. There's a fair amount of discussion, especially in the last couple of years, within education circles and in ways. I mean, you all might have had conversations like this with your friends, with your parents, right? Of like, you know, what is a university education and what is it good for, right? And so, you know, one of the narratives that we can fall into is this idea that, well, what the university, you know, to study at the university is, well, I'm going there so that I'll get a good job, right? I just was loaned a book by one of our colleagues, Dr. Hedglum, and one of her friends actually wrote this book, Becoming a Learner, Realizing the Opportunity of Education. And it kind of reframes the idea of what education is. Certainly, getting an education puts you in a position to have a better career, but it does more than that, right? Ideally, we're enhancing critical thinking skills, lifelong learning skills, right? The idea being more that, you know, by finishing a bachelor's, like, well, so you may know some of the particulars about how to use Avid or whatever, right? But more importantly, you develop those skills of critically thinking about putting pieces together, about meeting deadlines, about working as a team, and these kind of things that will stay with you long after Avid changes its software, you know, goes to the next one. And so I wonder if you all would talk a little bit about kind of the way in which your time at Bridgewater State kind of helped foster your ability to learn, and how that has served you after Bridgewater State.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. You know, when you go for a major, there's sometimes you have to take the specific courses or the general education requirements that are required for your degree. But you also have a lot of kind of extra credits you can do just to get to the credit limit. So I would say find another interest that might be outside of that where you can go study it. That's what I did with a lot of the management classes. I didn't actually go in as a minor in business management, but at the same time I wanted to study it, so I took a few classes there. So I'd find another interest, you know, whether that's art or teaching, whatever. And don't be worried about the time slots, because sometimes it won't fit into your time slots. You might be forced to do it on a Friday morning at 8 a.m. and your Thursday night at Bogarts is ruined, but at least you have something else under your belt and do what you got to do to get a little bit extra credit, but also understand that you're getting more experiences into a field that you wouldn't normally study. It's also a resume builder where, you know, if somebody looks at your degree and they say communication studies, but you're going for a management job, you can say, well, I studied management, I got a lot of experience in management classes, which helped me along the way as well. So that'd be my advice on it.
I agree. I would just say, while you're here, just try to dip into as many things as you can. Like you said, find another interest, get another minor if you can, or just get yourself out there and have internships, because having those internships helped me in the classroom as well, just because I could relate real work experience. Oh, yeah, that's what they were talking about in class. Like, now I understand, instead of just, yeah, maybe that'll happen one day when I'm in the workforce. So I would definitely just say dip your hands into as many things as you can.
Realize how everything that you do can somehow be kind of connected to the next thing. For example, something that I realized, especially since if you look at the courses that I took in college, most of my communications courses were, you know, videography, announcing, things like that. And, you know, just looking at the top layer of it, okay, what does that have to do with what I'm doing now? I mean, you can say nothing, but everything you do, think of how it actually can connect with each other. That'll be such a great point for you to have going into any interview. I mean, any group work that you're doing is setting yourself up for working in a job setting. I mean, right now I work with a team of 12 people, and it's tough. We all have different ideas. We all have to work together to, you know, reach our common goal, but at the same time, every single one of us is in competition. You know, I want to beat out the other 11 people because then at the end of the quarter I get a bigger commission check. But I mean, at the same time, I don't want to push them behind because that'll affect us as a whole as well. I mean, you could take a dance class you did in college and realize, you know, take similarities from that and pull it into anything that you do. I mean, anything that you're interacting with people and anything that you have to do as an individual or as a group can be brought to almost any career that, you know, you want to do or that you take part in, any job. And just always keep that in mind from, you know, point A to, or from now until you're out of college, because that'll, I mean, I'm telling you this because I didn't really do that at first. You know, when I was a junior looking for an internship, I didn't branch out. I strictly went to Maddie in the morning. And I got lucky and I got the position, but you know what, that's not always going to happen. So you really have to realize that, you know, the more experience you can get everywhere, the better off you'll be, and that everything is actually connected, and you can take your education and the experience from here and pull it into almost anything that you do afterwards.
So I just had this thought in my head as we're talking. So networking isn't just about people; it's also about ideas.
Right.
Right, and that's really one of the gifts that you had, right, at a place like Bridgewater State, is the ability to be networking ideas and not just people.
And we have a great art program here. If you're going into marketing, you know, take an art class if you can. You could bring that with you to wherever you're going. You might design your company's next logo or something like that, a menu at some place. Really take those abstract ideas and put them into practice, and you'd be really surprised at where they can take you.
And even like the most basic classes that you take here give you the little basic skills that you need to have a future job and to get a job in the career that you want. Because I know, like in Introduction to Radio, those little things that we learn there, like how to cut and edit things, help you so much when you actually have to go and actually do it. Like on a morning show, and you have like 15 seconds to cut a clip and like get it in. Like it helps you so much, and it actually, like, you know, it makes you really good at your job and everything.
And then a few, you know, specific examples of things that I brought back from this school, from the communications department that assists me now. I have to go to that training I told you about from the U.S. Chamber in Georgia. And there was a woman in my class from Boston, and we were in the same class. And everyone was giving her a hard time about her accent and her regionalisms. What I learned in voice and diction here, I carry with me, and I will. Because they said, no, I was born in Brockton and grew up in East Bridgewater, so I should have an accent, right? However, they said, we can't pick you apart. How can you be from the same area? I really feel as though that voice and diction class helped me shed those regionalisms. It's not something we should be ashamed of. Believe me, that, you know, they come right back when I'm with my girlfriends, but it does help you be a little bit more aware of the way that you're speaking and kind of... especially in public, but also in the company of those who might not be from this area, and you don't realize it, but they really don't understand you. And then, secondly, it's sad. It's a little bit sad when you get to the professional world and you realize that some people in very high up positions actually cannot write at all. And that you really are very valuable when you get to a position where you can write and you can edit things for your superiors or people in upper level management. You'll be surprised to find how valuable you are, as a matter of fact, when you need to prove things. And then just one last thing, interpersonal comm and group comm, some of the classes that I took here, those values really hit home when you're in a staff meeting and there's conflict, or you're in a committee and there's conflict. And you kind of step back and say, all right, am I just waiting? Like, I can think, Dr. Lippman, am I waiting to talk? Or am I actively listening? Okay, better start actively listening because I have to pinch myself because I was bad at it when I started in this class. I was always waiting, like, okay, what can I counteract that with? Like, what can I come back? What do I? And you really have to stop, sit back a little bit, hear what others have to say. They might have a better idea than you, and those values I carry with me, and I really think it has really benefited me along the way.
One other class, too, is the business professional communication. Do you still teach it, Dr. Lippman? It does. Dr. Lippman told me to watch my mouth one time in the class. I was out of line. So, but they do mock interviews. They'll do professional interviews that you have to do, all types of writing thing. I was one of the classes I remember the most because you were able to sit there and sort of see what an interview really was like, and not an interview that you sometimes see on a video or anything like that. So I think that was one of the ones that stood out for me as well. Very good class.
What was the class, sorry?
Business professional communication.
Okay.
And one thing I've realized about Bridgewater throughout the years, I'm sure there's other schools that do this, but I know for sure there's many schools that don't. Bridgewater, the classes at least that I took, whether it was communications classes having to do with my major or just the gen ed classes, or the general requirements, it's very hands-on here. It's very, they don't make you sit back and listen to a lecture every single day. Of course, there's some of that. But I just remember being in some of my courses and going home and with my friends telling them, oh, I have this to do and I have that, and them just saying, oh, we would hate that. They make you do that you have to get into a group and present, and you have to don't they teach you how to do it first? And I'm like, well, no. And at the time, of course, now I'm sitting there like, oh, I wish I could just sit in the class and, study for a test and take a test and that's that. But something, if I look at what I do now and how much more active I am just in any career I've been in or any job I've been in, that's because of what I've taken from Bridgewater. Them kind of not forcing you in a bad way, but making you put yourself out there and making you be hands-on. You might not realize it until your second or third job, but you know what? I realize now, even sitting here right this moment, that, in my meeting yesterday at my job, I was much more active than a lot of my peers there. And, they've been at the company longer than I have, and that, when you don't even realize it, that's stuff you take from, being in courses that are setting the stage for what you're going to do after. So definitely education, gets you some hands-on action, although it's not in the working field. You can still take it with you.
Speaking of being active, I am now done asking questions. I want to open the floor up for questions from you all. A question that you'd like to ask, please.
Did your GPA affect, how did your GPA relate to anything afterwards?
This might be the wrong answer, but never once. To be honest, it's not something in interviews that we'll do for management positions with the company. It's usually not posted on a resume, and I don't think it's really proper to put it on a resume in the first place in most cases. So that's not to say you shouldn't try your hardest, right. But no, it really didn't come up once. On the diploma, it says something cool.
When you're going for a job, they don't necessarily say, so why did you get a 2.9 GPA? It's more like, so how did this internship or how did this job help prepare you for what you're trying to apply for?
However, if you are cum laude or dean's list, it helps to have it on there.
That's true.
If I just, devil's advocate, but I worked really hard at what school didn't come very easy to me. It was a question asker, and I worked really hard. So if you do become dean's list or cum laude or something, put it on your resume with pride, in the beginning steps of your career. Why not?
I mean, I know you didn't ask me, but to go back to my leading question earlier about lifelong learning, right? I mean, if the goal of being in a class is to get an A, right, by hook or crook, you can get an A, right? I mean, worst case scenario, you go up to a website and you pay a chunk of money and you do it, right? I mean, look, if that's what you really want, you can do it, right? I mean, ethics be damned, any kind of learning be damned, right? I mean, if you want an A, it's not so hard, right? And so, like, a grade kind of reflects a professor's take, right, of kind of a set of feedback. But in the end, what you're taking away from a class, right, is between your ears. And so, I mean, I think it's right on some level that the GPA doesn't show up there. But if you get honors, then that's good. But it's kind of like those broad general things, and really it's kind of like what you leave with those different classes from, like in your brain and in your heart that really matters. Right?
And it's knowing how to talk about those skills that you get and how they can be beneficial to the company. If you're like, oh, I know how to do that, and it's like, well, how can you use that there? And you're just like, I don't really know how I could use it here. You never ever want to say that. You want to know how to talk about your skills intelligently.
And for the GPA, I mean, have I ever once been asked what my GPA was, or has that actual number came up? No, but you can't really just take that and think about that, because I did an internship in Disney World. I wouldn't have got that internship if I didn't get good grades here. I wouldn't have been able to do it. Now, I've had positions that have told me that we called you back because you worked for Disney. We called you back over 50 people because we know that if you had a successful, career internship at Disney World, you really can't be all that bad type thing. So you really have to think of it in the long run. You can't just say, oh, well, I don't have to get, good grades because IBM never asked me for my GPA, which they didn't. Never even asked me my grades. I mean, I think maybe I have Dean's List on my resume, but I don't even know if I had that on my resume for IBM. But you have to think about all the things that you've done because of your GPA and how those things are what have kind of pushed you. Do you know what I mean? So, although they haven't asked about your GPA, there's plenty of things that your GPA has affected that you might not realize that.
And when you're writing that student loan check to pay it back, it feels really good to know that you took away knowledge as well.
Say, Shaniece knows, if you're going to go on to graduate school, you need those.
Oh, yes, definitely. That opens and closes doors right away.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, that closes doors immediately. And not, like if you want to go on and become a professor, but just increasingly just getting a master's is what's necessary to advance if you want to take that next step in the job.
Yeah.
What would be an average GPA for that? It's like, I'm killing myself. Like, whenever I get, less than an A, I kill myself over it thinking, I'm not going to be successful in life. But, especially as, courses get harder, I'm getting lower and lower grades. And I'm like, man, I'm not going to get anywhere in life. But
No, get yourself involved, too. I mean, something, if you get a bad grade, I'm not saying it's okay,
right.
But if you show that you've taken something from that class, I mean, one thing I'll say is, for example, my nephew, right, got all A's. Granted, this is 3rd grade, but this is just a very very broad example. Now, the poor kid got all A's, all A's, all A's, and then somehow forgot about some test and ended up getting a 0 on it. Now, he's an extremely bright kid, but should that, do you think that should completely affect the whole entire year of work that he did, that he got good grades? No. I mean, you have to think of it that way. If you do make a mistake and you do, get a bad grade, push yourself forward and do something else. I mean, get involved in, corporate citizenship. That's huge. If they see that you're active and they see that you're trying, I mean, that'll give you, a great push too.
Good question. Because I'm in my junior year now, and I'm determining internship or student involvement as in student government. What would be more successful as in resume building? Internships or involvement in the community in school?
I would say internship, personally. I think the experience you get off of it is pretty good. And what you put into it there, you can get resume contacts from there, references from it as well. So if you do great work with the organization you're with, and it's in the same field that you're getting into, I think it's real valuable.
Are you saying you have only the option of one or the other?
If you wanted to do, because I'm a full-time student and
Right.
employee, I have 2 jobs. So if I wanted to get involved in student government, or if I wanted to do intern at a different job as a higher position, what would be better for me as in, say I was my senior class president, I know that works when you're in high school, you build up your resume
Right.
for college. What does that do for your future?
I don't know. I don't think it's a question that you can kind of just get a simple answer to, one or the other. I think you kind of have to look at what you've done and what you want to do, and kind of. I would talk to, for me to say, I was never involved in student government. I wasn't. But I don't know. What do you think as professors? It's a difficult question. I don't really think that you can really say one is definitely better than the other.
Because they're two different skills. You're going to take something away from both of them and be able to apply it.
I mean,
So
experience
it's
in the
difficult.
working world is huge, of course, but I don't think I would say, oh, who cares about being president if, you know. So it's, you really kind of got to look at the whole picture, I guess, to really.
I go with both hands. This is great. Other questions? Please. Nice and loud. Please.
Liz, could you tell me more about the street team? About the street team? Yeah. So basically, we get a schedule of events every single month, and then we get assigned to all the different events. And so we go out, and we're basically the face of the radio station when we go out, and we have to, you know, act accordingly and just know everything about the station in case anyone ever asks like a random question. I just go out, we sign people up to win, you know, different prizes or just promote either like a restaurant that we're at or a gas station or a show, whatever. And we just go out and do that and hang out and, you know, just talk to people. It's all about talking to people when I'm on the job. And the perks are really fun too. So.
Questions? Questions? Yes, please.
What made you want to get a master's in education after already having your communications? I love my communications. I'm getting my master's in education with a concentration in student affairs counseling. So I really wanted to, go back to school and relearn some stuff. I was getting really bored kind of. So that's kind of why I decided to come back. And I loved my job as an undergrad here at school. So I just went back to get my master's. I'm here.
And so just to follow up, do you see, like, what are some of the connections that you see between, like, the work that you did there in communication and then, like, the work that you're doing in counseling? I can imagine them, but like, I think it'd be really helpful to articulate some of those connections.
Definitely just some of the, like the interpersonal skills that we've talked about, being able to do that type of thing. You know, communications is a very people-centered field, and you have to know how to talk to people and how to deal with certain things. And even like the marketing, the PR, like I use that in my class, just how we think about things and how we present and things like that. Like I learned a lot about presenting from my communications classes. I learned a lot about how to talk to people and things of that nature. So you really don't know when your skills are going to come into play. Like, oh, I learned how to do that as an undergrad from, one of Bjorn's classes. So.
What, really?
Yeah.
Other questions? Now's not the time to be shy. Please.
What's one thing you wish you would have done at Bridgewater in hindsight? If there's something, some kind of opportunity, some sort of class, some sort of skill set, is there anything that in hindsight you wish you could have done?
I was going to, if no one asked a question, I was going to say I would do this, I didn't do this. I feel as though I would have been, and I still would be, more of a total package in terms of an employee and in terms now of growth going somewhere else. Had I taken a graphic design, Photoshop, one of these courses. I think this university offers a program just specifically geared towards that, that I'm looking into. Hopefully I can get into at night. But that's the one piece of the puzzle that keeps me from moving on to a different chamber. I want to become the director of communications for a chamber of commerce, but they're looking for that design component that I don't have. I mean, I can publish a mean Microsoft Publisher document, but I need to be able to do more. I'm learning that in my experience at the chamber, bit by bit, but had I come in with those skill sets, I know that I would be a little bit more desirable.
I think personally I probably would have researched getting a minor a little bit more. I was real focused on the major part and didn't necessarily go into the minor. And once you start realizing when you get into your senior year whether you just need credits at some point, and I think my final semester I took a self-defense class because literally I needed 2 credits. And it was me and a bunch of phys ed majors. So I think if I researched a minor a little bit more early on in my career at school, it would have helped me, and I definitely would have gone a probably business management minor. So
mine may seem silly, but I never entered the film festival that I know a lot of my peers had done, and I just never really thought seriously about it until after I graduated, and I was like, why didn't I ever do that? Like, I knew a lot of people who were doing it. I could have, not necessarily been on camera, but even the production side of things, I really got into that. So I never really thought about offering up my services in that way. So that was kind of my thing,
And going off of that, I was just going to say I would have gotten more involved in the school when I was actually attending, as in things like the film festival. I mean, when I was here, I basically went to my classes until my senior year. I mean, yes, I did internships, but they were mainly until I really connected with Dr. Litvin my senior year. I was never involved in the school, and I consider myself really lucky even being asked to come back here, because these are the types of things I wish I had done more of when I was in school, instead of just, going to my classes. Hey, yeah, getting good grades, great, but I wish I got a little bit more involved in kind of the educational community, I guess, because I never did when I was in school. And I would say if I had one thing I would do differently, that's definitely what it would be.
So quick before the next question, I suppose this would be like the natural plug for student organizations within the department, right? Like the Public Relations Student Association, PRSSA. There's the Bridgewater Film and Video Association. We do have departmental honors, right? Lambda Pi Eta. And there are literally hundreds of other organizations that aren't necessarily tied to the department, but that are available to you and that, frankly, you are paying for with your fee dollars each and every semester, right? And so there's really like opportunities for each and every one of you to plug into the community and have things going on here at Bridgewater State outside of your classes. So I just have to throw in that gratuitous plug.
And what he just said, I mean, coming back to the GPA, if you're active in all of the things that he just mentioned, you're going to be noticed more than someone might have a 4.0, but if they have nothing special about them or nothing extra that they've done, I mean, they're going to notice the person with a 3.5 who has been involved and, made a difference. So it's almost a little bit of forgiveness for that one bad grade you might have got, So definitely get involved.
We talk in 496 about, once you get the interview, then at that point it becomes story time. That it's all about telling stories, and you're selling yourself, and you're kind of telling stories about yourself. And and certainly like the work that you're doing in your classes is important and valuable, and there are stories to be told from those locations. But these kind of range of other opportunities that are available to you, those are also places from which stories flow. And the big thing once you get out there is being able to tell your story.
Right, because the interview question will become, can you tell me about a time when? And you better be able to tell them about a time when.
And also going from education to work, when you're in that interview, you might be able to study your way through any subject, any test, anything if you're given the material. But when you're in the working world, they expect you to create the material. So getting involved, those are the types of things that will give you the skills to do so, opposed to just being given a book and saying, okay, study this and then, summarize it for me. Or, organizations, companies, they're looking for people to have new ideas, create new ideas, initiate, make their company better. So being active, that's what gives you the skills to do so.
I'll take another question. Yes, please.
Someone up there, I can't remember who, but someone said they went through 4 internships.
That was myself.
That was you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when did you start? Did you squeeze those?
First semester, junior year.
Okay.
Once I was in my core classes for my major, I said, okay, it's so broad. Communications is so broad. There's so many different avenues that you can take. So I said, I have no idea what I want to do, so I'm going to figure it out for myself.
You did like 1 per semester?
Yep.
Dr. Litvin can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you can get up to 12 credits at Bridgewater State University for internships. Only 3 of those count towards your departmental degree, right? The 36 for your department, but you can get up to 12 credits that count towards your 120 from internships at Bridgewater State. You had a question?
How do you do with having like a genius idea and bring it up to your company and then they just shut you down? Like I work for Hilton right now, but it's a private corporation, and I always have these like amazing ideas, like we should do this, we should do that to make ourselves better. But they were like, there's no follow through with it. Like my general manager's just like, yeah, just brush it off. do you find another job where you're more valuable, or just stay there because it's secure? Like, especially being in college.
So that happens quite a bit in the retail industry, and it's similar. Some of the ideas are a little far-fetched, like they want a Starbucks in the corner of the store, which they want that. Doesn't mean we'll get it. So dividing out, if it is a really good idea, what I've always impressed by is when someone kind of has a business plan or a business case for it. So not to say that you're typing up graphs and all that type of thing, but at least having some insights as to why that idea would work. So you either heard it from customers or you heard it from employees that work there, and then making a plan and then offering to head the plan, I think is important for me, because the other part that sometimes gets frustrating on the management level is somebody's got a great idea and you empower them to go out and do it, and then they don't do it. So some people have all the ideas but don't want to put the effort into doing it.
I had a good idea. How about you do this?
Right, and it happens all the time. So to be able to distinguish yourself from the rest of that is saying, hey, here's my idea. This is why it will work. This is how I came up with the idea. And oh, by the way, I'm going to head it for you. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, then at least we tried something and didn't sit here and sit in our hands.
And if they do just shut you down, ask them, get them talking about why. Like, ask them why. Just why. Because often doing that, because people don't listen, to be honest. And if you don't get them talking about, like, why are you saying no to this idea? Getting them talking about the reasons that they're saying no might make them realize, especially if it's, someone high up in a company, might make them realize, wow, I don't actually have a reason that we shouldn't be doing this, and it actually sounds like a great idea. So get them talking about what they see good and bad about whatever you're presenting them.
To give you a quick example, we had an employee that, this was about 2009, an employee came to us as a management team and said, why don't we go to furniture companies and see if we can get a deal going with furniture companies. So we had one employee that went to Carty's Furniture, they're a Rhode Island-based company, and said, why don't we do a deal where if you sell a couch, you get a 20-inch TV with it. The long story short is about a year progress, but eventually it led to a $300,000 revenue increase for the store, just based off of that one employee's idea who headed the whole thing and did it. So it was a great idea, and they spearheaded it, and it turned out very well.
I would just add, I agree with everything Pat said, and then I would also add that I would say be careful of asking the CEO or your boss why too much. Tread carefully, but be thoughtful and have information to back you up. But also something that would be really helpful for you, show them what the competition's doing similar to what you're suggesting. Well, I do that all the time when I can't, when I feel like I am not being heard in terms of my ideas. I say, oh, well, this chamber is doing this, and it looks really popular, and we want to remain relevant, and that is usually helpful.
And as far as asking why, I think how to phrase that importantly is to say, well, is there anything that you don't like or anything that I could change that you think might be better? Like, they might not want 10 of these, so they're just saying no to the 10, but, they might approve 5 of whatever. So, just thinking of things like that can be really helpful.
Can we do one last question from the floor? Yeah? Yes, please.
Is there anything you guys are working on now in any of your organizations or personally to better yourself, whether it's school or moving up in a company, anything like that?
I keep asking my boss if anyone needs any help in the production rooms, because I eventually want to be a producer. So I just, every single opportunity, I'm just like, hey, what can I do, what can I do, what can I do? And so he's actually in talks with the producer at TKK to get me into running the board and everything like that when they're on air. So eventually that'll happen, but I just keep asking him every single day what I can do.
And as far as networking and bettering yourself and everything, I became a part of the National Honor Society for Counseling, Chi Sigma Iota, so I'm a part of that and trying to get involved in there just to help out my career. Get involved.
I'm really interested in getting, eventually being a part of the promotion of the IBM brand, which I would be able to, be traveling around and just basically promoting the brand. So right now I'm learning Spanish because that's, it'll give me such leverage over my competition. And if I get to a certain point and if I get certain grades, IBM will pay for me to get my master's in Spanish. So just bringing that back to the GPA thing, which I wasn't even thinking about until right now.
I do a lot of volunteer work in my community, and I find that cold calling people to join the chamber does not work, but when I get involved in the local business community and kind of put myself out there as a human first as opposed to a salesperson, I find that to be very effective for me. I volunteer in a number of different associations and organizations, and as I mentioned before, the chamber, if I don't have to go, but the chamber sends me away for a week every year for this certification, Institute of Organizational Management certification, and I'll graduate in 4 years, or 2 years, I'm almost done, and then that's something to add to my resume. So that's excellent. And I'm trying to convince our CEO to send me to learn those skills that I mentioned that I don't have. I'm really plugging to try to have him compensate me for or allow me some flex time during the workday to take those classes that I feel I'm missing.
So we have about 10 minutes or so left for our time here. And so what I'm going to want to encourage folks to do is take the opportunity to come up and perhaps individually introduce yourselves to our panelists network, right? Get to meet the folks that were in your chairs just a couple of years previous. And that will be a really kind of nice way to finish up our time here. I would say that somewhere out there is my black book circulating around. Right. Okay. So if you have, if you're in my classes, I would love for you to let yourself be known and sign in there. Before I guess adjourn and have us kind of come forward, please help me again in thanking our 6 panelists for their time.